One day while exploring the Broken Spear pub in Sidonia on Mars, we stumble upon a guy drowning in books named Phil Hill.
Fancy seeing you here. Phil Hill at your service. Yes, it rhymes. My parents had a thing about rhyming. My siblings are named Bill, Jill, and Sil. The Hills. What a thrill.
Phil Hill here, who looks and sounds a lot like Fix-It Felix.
What brings you here, neighbor?
Is helping people who are interested sign up for LIST, the League of Independent Settlers. And through talking with him, we learn everything there is to know about LIST.
We get folks set up and able to start new lives in new places, free of governmental interference. We survey the stars, find suitable places matching people's needs, and get folks started with the essentials.
Phil Hill wants us to find people and recruit them to LIST. He gives us a LIST recruiter guide that we can hand out to prospective members, and it tells us more about how the organization is structured. From here on out, we need to keep our eyes open for people who might be interested in joining LIST. But one day, while exploring RNI-1 in the RNI system, we get a distress call from somebody who belongs to LIST.
Delta Lopez, to any LIST vessels. Word. Deliver a message. Colonists in the system. Emergency. Come to my farm. Urgent.
It sounds like a LIST settlement is in trouble. And as we've learned, they're completely independent. They're outside the help of the Freestar Collective and the United Colonies, so, well, there's no one but us who can help them. I should point out that this distress call is randomized from gameplay to gameplay. In my game, I found it in the RNI system, but viewers of my broadcasts have said that they've found it in completely different systems. Now, we're at RNI-1, but the distress call came from RNI-2. So, heading that way, we can scan the planet, and immediately we see that it's not habitable. It's a completely barren planet. It has no atmosphere, a weak magnetosphere, and it's enduring a persistent deep freeze. One of the entire points of LIST is to help settlers find and establish settlements on habitable planets. So why some guy decided to create a settlement here on RNI-2 boggles the mind. At any rate, upon landing, we can make our way towards the distress call to discover Lopez's farm. We find Lopez at the bottom of some stairs leading into his habs.
I'm not afraid to use this to defend my home and my family. But you sure as hell don't look like any spacer I've seen before.
Your broadcast made it sound like you're in trouble.
So let me get this straight. You heard a distress call and you flew all the way down here. What are you, some sort of priest or good Samaritan? I didn't know people like you were real. But I got a heap load of problems, and I'm willing to pay my share for the help.
I want to know more before I commit either way.
Sensible. Used to be 4 families that LIST helped set up stakes in this system. We rarely saw eye to eye in the best of times, and believe me true, these ain't the best of times. Spacers started raiding and it's been getting worse. Only a matter of time before they end us all. Unless you're willing to help some hard-working, pig-headed settlers out.
So many willing to prey on others for whatever scraps they can get.
If you're trying to convince me that my fellow man is a bitter disappointment, believe me, I'm way ahead of you.
With that outlook, I believe no one is ahead.
Can you tell me about LIST?
The League of Independent Settlers. Good-meaning fools happy to set colonists up in independent space. The promise is freedom. True freedom. If you can fend off all the spacers and pirates the settled systems can throw at you.
Who are the 4 families?
The Wens and the Bandas are farmers like me. Jacqueline Lamar and her daughter have some mining operation with dreams of hitting it big. I've tried in the past to get us to work together, but you don't join LIST unless you have a healthy dollop of obstinacy.
Lots of challenges in independent space.
No arguments here. The spacers have taken out the family's LIST satellites, so we can't even talk to each other. Isolate and eliminate, a classic tale. You fix the Lopez satellite and I'll open a secure channel and we can sync up and get the lay of the land. and then get all of our satellites operational.
Why do you need these LIST satellites?
LIST set us up with some secure communication satellites. Makes it hard for riffraff to pick us up. Well, in theory. The other families won't respond to communications on open channels. I figure if I didn't risk the distress call, we're all dead anyway.
Why haven't you fixed the satellites?
I have. Twice. I took out the old pickup. Last time I tried, I barely made it out alive. They're using the damn satellites as bait. My ship just isn't up for facing spacers. But yours, a whole different animal.
Time to get to work.
It might be I'm getting caught up in the moment, but I actually feel optimistic for once. Thanks.
So LIST helped Albin set up a colony here on this awful planet, but also helped 3 other settlers establish themselves as well. They used to communicate with each other using secure satellites, but spacers have come into this system and disabled the satellites to use them as bait to get these guys to fly up there. Well, thankfully, we've outfitted ourselves with a ship that can handle itself in a dogfight. If we explore Albin's little hab here, we find that everything is set to unowned so we can help ourselves to his goods, but it's a small little hab. This is just his office. We don't even find a bed here. The back door of the hab leads to the farm, I guess? We find some settlers here that are working for Albin, but it kind of just looks like a fenced-off portion of the planet. I'm not exactly sure what they're farming. It's gotta be subterranean mineral or gaseous resources. But you know, I can understand. Farming is tough. Who has time to farm these days? Wouldn't it be easier if food could just be delivered straight to their door? Straight to your door? Well, you can make that dream a reality with today's sponsor, Factor. Too busy this fall to cook, but want to make sure you're eating well? With Factor, skip the extra trip to the grocery store and the chopping, prepping, and cleaning up too, while still getting the flavor and nutritional quality you need. Factor's fresh, never frozen meals are ready in just 2 minutes, so all you have to do is heat and enjoy. Then get back to crushing your goals. I've been using Factor for several years now, and the thing I value most is how it helps me hit my calorie goals with very little effort. One of the reasons I would eat out to begin with was because it was easy. But it's hard to count your calories correctly if you're eating out all the time. With Factor, I know exactly what I'm eating, which helps me plan my day accordingly. Are you too looking for calorie-conscious options during the busy season? Try delicious dietitian-approved Calorie Smart meals with around or less than 550 calories per serving. A new box of meals arrives on my doorstep every single week. At dinner time, I just pop it in the microwave, and 2 minutes later, I have a delicious meal that there's no way I could make for myself. It's faster than delivery and cheaper than eating out all the time. This October, get Factor and enjoy eating well without the hassle. Simply choose your meals and enjoy fresh, flavor-packed meals delivered to your door. Ready in just 2 minutes, no prep, no mess. Head to factor75.com or click the link below and use the code OXHORN50 to get 50% off your first Factor box. Since we don't see an actual farm here on this planet, I'm guessing that the Lopez family farm feeds their workers in a similar way. At any rate, heading into orbit around Erini 2, we find the first satellite swarming with spacers.
Their shield system is damaged. We've blown out their grav drive. Target's shield is connections, and they are offline.
With the spacers destroyed, we can slowly approach the Lopez satellite. Thankfully, to repair it, we just look at it and press R.
The green light is on, which means communications is up. Sending the data on the other satellites. You do hear me, right? Hello?
Blueberry, elephants. Seriously, it's working fine.
Wait, what? Oh, hardy ha ha. It's gonna take some time dealing with someone competent. I don't suppose you want a job working hydroponics. No one ever says yes to that. Once you repair the other satellites, I'll open a channel to the other families.
And it's rinse and repeat. The next satellite is orbiting Arani 5, and we likewise find it being guarded by spacers. After the dogfight, we approach the Lamar satellite and repair it.
Another satellite up. And broadcasting. Lopez to Lamar. Jacqueline, are you there?
Albin? How the hell? I'm almost glad to hear your voice.
Listen, we need to meet, all of us. These spacers have got us on the ropes.
What sort of game are you playing? We're not going to fall for another of your cons.
No game, no ruse. Times have changed. We need to move on or we'll all be the saddest little footnote in history.
We can meet, but it'll be on my ship.
Fine.
Huh.
I closed the call. So that's good old Jackie. Get to the other families. Hopefully they'll give us a better reception.
It sounds like Jackie Lamar has some history with Albin Lopez. She didn't trust him one whit. What did Albin Lopez ever do to Jackie to make her so distrustful? The next satellite is orbiting Arani 4C, a moon of Arani 4. We find spacers here in force, and it's quite the dogfight. When done, we can move towards the Banda satellite.
Signal. Lopez to Banda? Banda, you there? You got the satellites back up? Had help. Big help from a friend. I didn't know you had friends. I'm turning over a new leaf. In that vein, we have to meet all the families. Oh, I bet Jackie's gonna love that. Oh, she was a real peach about it. So she's in? Has to be her ship, but she's in. I'll come over. And Albin, it's good to hear you. Oh, you're choking me up here. And that's Chanda. Good people. Maybe too good. More satellites to fix.
But we're not done. The next satellite sends us to the orbit of Arani 4A, another moon of Arani 4. However, this one is not being guarded by spacers. Did they learn their lesson? Approaching the satellite, we can repair it.
Excellent. And I'll patch in. Lopez to win? Lopez to win. When? When? This does not sound good. When? Please. We may be the three families now. And that's the last of them. Stranger, let's meet up on Lamar's ship. I'll square away payment, but I have a feeling this ain't over and there may be further paying work ahead.
We don't find spacers here because they already lured the Wens out into space and destroyed them. We can presume that they've already completely looted the Wen colony. Well, the surviving settlers are meeting on Lamar's ship. We find it on the other side of the moon. Approaching, we can hail it.
You got anything to say? Say it to Jackie.
And then we can dock. Upon docking, we begin to overhear a conversation between the survivors.
Figured you'd need someone else to do something useful.
Charming as ever. First things first, I'm pretty sure the spacers got the Wens. No contact with them.
All of them? My God.
Shit.
They were good people, and they died. Needlessly. Because we couldn't get our act together.
That's rich coming from you. You've scammed me time and time again, Albin.
The spacers are a threat to us all, Jackie.
And that is the salient point. Mistakes were made, we need to get past that. What I'm proposing is a mutual defense pact, nothing else. Each of us throws in our ships, men, materials, and whatnot, enough to protect all of our asses.
I wouldn't give you one solitary ounce of helium-3 if my life depended on it.
The problem is, it does. I think we all need to cool off. Stranger, a word?
Well, it looks like we're seeing one of the dangers of working with List. I mean, on paper, being independent from the UC and the Freestar Collective, having your own planet or your own system that you can settle at your will sounds wonderful. It sounds like utopia. No rules, no laws, no overhead. But also no support, no infrastructure, no military. Every member of List is literally on their own, and one solitary colony can't stand up to the spacer threat, can't stand up to ecliptic mercenaries. And Lord knows what'll happen if the Crimson Fleet decides to attack. They find themselves having to form a bit of a government. Granted, it's not a real government, it's more like NATO. They're trying to develop a defense pact right now. One member of the defense pact gets attacked, everyone in the defense pact comes to their aid and defends them. I think it's only a matter of time before every List settlement, unless they're completely isolated and have literally nothing of worth, develops a pact like this, or some form of government, however loose it might be. Talking with Albin.
First things first. You did an honest day's work, you deserve an honest day's pay. Here, with heartfelt compliments. But I expect you know what's coming next. We're not military folk, and I'm not ashamed to say we are out of our depth. I'll pay you more, much more, if you can help kick the spacers out of our system for good, and coordinate our efforts to do so.
Tell me what you need then.
Right you are. So we're not babes in the woods. Each family has a ship or two and hard men and women that can handle themselves in a firefight. But the root of the problem is, admittedly, a self-inflicted injury. My family was here first, and when List sent other families here, perhaps I didn't take to it kindly. Might be I made an odd credit here or there at their expense. Something Lamar especially has never let me live down. But now we need the Lamars and the Bandas both, I reckon.
How bad is this self-inflicted injury?
Listen, I'm not proud of what I did, but this was my system first. Then Jackie comes lately arrives, and maybe it rubbed me wrong. But it's ancient history. We gotta evolve or we're just fuel for the spacers.
Well, I hope I can convince them.
I wouldn't hold my breath with Jackie. But Band is good folk. Well, hopefully. We need to cooperate now, but also in the future. We need a mutual defense pact. As our new mercenary commander, please talk with Band and Lamar. Lamar, God help us, especially we could use. Her family's got the most ships and crew by far. But if she's a lost cause, Ben and I can muddle through.
So Albin and his family was here first, and he thought he was gonna get to own the entire system. But that's not how it worked. List sent other families to the other planets and moons in the system, and he took it personally. He defrauded Lamar. That's why she's so distrustful of him. And now we've got to convince her to join the Defense Pact. Well, we'll start with the low-hanging fruit, and first chat with Chanda Banda.
Hello, stranger. Your work in getting the satellites up? You've done us a good turn. I know it was paying work, but a lot of mercs wouldn't even take a List contract. You here to talk about the Defense Pact?
No, we want to organize a bake sale.
Might be worth a laugh if the stakes weren't so high.
Why would other mercs turn down a List contract?
List is long on ideals, but short on credits and, well, sense. Don't get me wrong, they've got the best of intentions, but intentions alone aren't enough. I mean, I agree that right now coming together makes sense, but going forward, it's hard to imagine Jackie and Albin working together for the long haul without one winding up with a knife in the back.
Any advice on getting this to work?
If you can get those stubborn mules to work together, really together, they might be able to see the sense of this defense pact going forward.
I'm sure they can learn to cooperate.
If you say so. Well, the bandits will join the defense pact. We got one ship operational, another we can patch up. It's not much, but you'll have us when you need us.
And Chanda Banda joins. He's able to put 2 ships into the fight. Now we've got to try to convince Jacqueline.
We band together. Not only can we deal with the current problem, but future ones as well.
Yeah, too bad you made everything difficult for us, Albin. Moving forward, we can talk to Jacqueline Lamar.
Just so you know, Albin is a con man and a thief. Associating with the likes of him reflects poorly on your character.
I mean, it's not like we knew that when this started. We were responding to a distress call. What did Albin do to you exactly?
When my crew first arrived, Albin was all charm and eager to deal. It seemed like the start of a fruitful relationship, but quickly it became clear that he was grifting us. Machines we bought broke down, shipments he hauled for us went missing, and help he promised never materialized. I swore I'd never work with him again. Oh, he's lucky I'm not a vengeful woman.
I mean, if that's all true, I guess I can sympathize with her. Well, knowing where she stands, she'd probably respond best if we say, I don't like him either, but this defense pact is the best chance everyone lives.
Don't be so certain. So here's the deal. Odds are good my crew can hold out against the Spacers all by ourselves. If we're gonna band together, I have the most to contribute and the most to lose. The smart play for my interests is the Lamars hunker down and outlast the storm.
Now we could pay 2,000 credits to convince her to help out, or we could try to pass a persuasion check by saying whatever you've got, the Spacers have more. Band together or die alone.
I may not be some sort of military expert, but you can't know that for certain.
And we discover that she's a moderately difficult person to try to convince. We have to pass 6 points of persuasion. What, do you want us to fight your battles for you, we can say?
I'm not afraid of a fight.
There's gonna be a lot of salvage if we pull this off.
There are considerably safer ways of earning credits.
A Banda/Lopez alliance without you will affect your interests down the road.
That is a good point.
We have a much better chance of killing the Spacers together.
Well, that's certainly true. Well, you might have a point. Fine. Let Albin know that I'm willing to try this defense pact for now.
And we did it. We convinced her. She's on board. That means she's gonna bring many more ships into the upcoming battle. This is really the only choice of consequence in the entire quest. And convincing her or not convincing her to help doesn't change much. Essentially, if we convince her, then we optionally have her ships help us in dogfights in the future. She shows up to dialogue scenes in the future, but she doesn't actually do any talking. If she doesn't show up, some of the other characters say that things would be easier if she was around, but other than that, none of their dialogue changes either. Before checking in with Lopez, we can explore Jacqueline's ship here, but everything is set to owned. We can't take anything without stealing. However, there's nothing interesting to note on this ship either. No lore, no amazing loot. So heading back down to Lopez, we can tell him the good news.
So is the defense pact in business? Come on, don't keep me in suspense.
Despite all the terrible things you did to her, Jackie will help us.
Well, she has every right to hold a grudge. But she's joining us anyway? How in the hell did you manage that?
I managed to talk her into it.
Wait, words can do that? Like I said, miracles never cease. So, the sensors have picked up 2 contact groups. Undoubtedly our spacer friends. We don't have many ships, but we can send them with you. Or hold them in reserves, your call.
Albin is not denying that he previously tried to defraud Jacqueline. Perhaps he's genuinely remorseful. Or perhaps he's just pretending to be remorseful so he can use her today. Any details on the contacts?
Expect more than you encountered at the satellites. How much more? Hard to say at this distance.
Our 2 options are to do this space fight alone, or to allow these guys to defend their own system. Doing it alone is just gonna make the space fight harder for us, so we can say, I could use your help. Send the ships you can.
You got it. I'll send the long word. After you deal with the Spacers, meet back on my farm. I've got an idea how to find where the Spacers are based.
We now need to head out to destroy the final groups of Spacers orbiting the moons of RNI-4. This won't defeat the Spacer force in this system, but it'll take most of their ships out of the sky. Heading to RNI-4D, we can take out the first group of Spacers.
Their shields have been We have disabled their shields. Targets, they've lost grav jump capability. You took out their shields are gone. Take them out.
Took some damage here, but we're clear. Thanks, stranger.
And it looks like the colonists didn't suffer any casualties. A little bit of damage, nothing too bad. After looting the spacer wreckages, we can fly to RNI 4B and take out these remaining spacers.
Target's shields are down.
Enemy has lost their grav drive. They've lost shields. Hit them now.
Their shield system is
Taking out their grav drive.
Spacer contacts eliminated. That was... wow. Some good flying there. Lopez is ready for you at the farm. Thanks.
And with the spacers in orbit destroyed, we can head back to RNI-2 and land at Lopez's farm. Heading over the pods and into the farm, we find all three of them here waiting for us.
Glad to hear you're back, safe and sound. Banda, you owe me 30 credits.
You're tougher than I thought.
Easy money. So while you were doing that, I used the communication satellites to triangulate some spacers' chatter.
You did what?
I'm more than just a pretty face. Anyway, there's an old derelict star station the spacers are using as a base.
Are you sure it's their base of operation?
I mean, there's a real outside chance there's a relay or something there, but these spacers aren't the most savvy of customers. I'm telling you, that's where they're holed up.
Then that's our target.
Couldn't say it better myself. There are undoubtedly a lot of spacers there, both ships and men on the station itself.
We need to excise this cancer from our system. Every last one of them.
100% agree. So, oh glorious leader, any words of wisdom or inspiration before we embark?
You all have lived under the threat of these spacers for too long. Victory is in sight.
This is it. The big one. We need to bring everything we got to bear. There won't be any do-overs on this one. We'll all be waiting for you to jump in.
It sounds like the space station is orbiting RNI-3, and it's being protected by a fleet of ships. Heading out, we can travel to RNI-3, whereupon we begin the dogfight immediately, and we discover a derelict star station. We see ships from the Defense League fly in to our aid. We're surrounded by ships on all sides, but thankfully it's easy to pick out the unique spacer ships before hunting them down one by one.
Enemy shield system has been damaged. Target shields are down. Target's grav drive is disabled. Critical damage to the end. Target has lost shields. They're vulnerable.
Look alive! Spacers got reinforcements! More contacts jumping in!
Another fleet jumps in, and we've got to teach them a similar lesson.
Direct hit to their grav drive. We've knocked out their shield. Their grav drive is crippled. They're not escaping.
This is pathetic!
We've blown out their grav
Sky's
drive.
clean. Everyone, start boarding the star station. It's time to reclaim this system for good.
After looting the wreckages, we can head to the retrofitted star station. If we try to hail it,
Okay, hello.
I don't know if that was a spacer or what, but they're just happy to see us, I guess. Getting close, we can dock with the derelict Starstation.
And we're locked in.
Upon entering, we hear a gunfight already in progress in the next room. Opening the door, we can be an agent of change.
This isn't happening! We'll get to go.
We destroy all spacers on this lower level, and it looks like the colonists suffered one fatality. We find the corpse of one family settler lying on the ground. Our swift intervention managed to save most of their lives. With that, we can begin looting this lower level. We find a number of storage crates and ammo canisters. There are mannequins filled with spacesuits, plenty of doors and hatches, ventilation shafts to crawl through, and we find one terminal, the captain's computer. Inside, we find two entries. In the first, attention, do not release these robots. These Model A's are from a Freestar freighter we jumped near Cheyenne. 2 bots were defending the ship. It took us an hour to hack in and put them to sleep. Donnie thinks he can recode them to do chores around the station, so unless that's your name, stop now! If they wake up, these robots will attack on sight. So it looks like this is an opportunity laid for a stealth player. Instead of racing into the battle like we did, someone could have, say, gone through that ventilation shaft, ended up here, and activated the robots to do the fighting for them. But of course, that would have taken time, and it would have cost more settlers' lives. If we activate them now, the robots come out of their charging docks.
Please wait. Generating suitable greeting. Hello, traveler.
But they just wander around this bottom floor. There's nothing left for them to do. So with this bottom section cleared, we can head upstairs and take the elevator to the observation corridor. We arrive in the observation corridor and we get a great view of the space station. Opening the door, we arrive at the bottom of a staircase. There are a few containers down here, but we need to focus on the spacer threat. Opening a door, we can clear the spacers room to room.
I believe we are not alone.
Say goodbye. I can take it. Just get started.
And with that, we clear the spacers. The settlers don't go up the elevator with us. They leave this last bit just for us. Then I suppose they won't mind if we do all the looting as well. This observation level was the main spacer habitation. We find a number of bunks and barracks, bathrooms and lockers. It's a wonderful opportunity to loot a ton of ammunition and resources. Like with the downstairs, there are plenty of side passages, ventilation shafts to explore. There are lots of unique opportunities for a stealth character. We find a loot room filled with a weapon case, some ammo canisters, and helmet displays. And in the control room, we find one terminal, the captain's computer. Inside, we find 2 entries. In the first, too much heat. We should stop capturing UC ships for a while. We can still sell their loot in Aquila, but if the UNC realizes that this station exists, I'm not sure how long we could hide from them. That's definitely attention we don't need. We should make preparations in case we need to defend ourselves. I'll talk with Sandra about equipping some of our captured ships for combat. Looks like we cleared them just in time. They were using this space station as a headquarters, and they were trying to build a spacer fleet. Next, we can read Jackpot. Jason and his crew hijacked a Galbank transport ship. It's the kind of score you'd dream of. There was a giant safe on board, VIP customer storage and whatnot. They hauled the whole thing back here. Smart. Unfortunately, Jace demanded he keep the entire safe for himself. Not smart. So Jace is no longer aboard this station. Now, the safe stays in the storage area downstairs. I keep the key in this room at all times. We find the key that he was talking about if we back out of the terminal and turn around. On a side table, we find a stolen safe key right next to a copy of Grunt Issue 8. Ballistic weapons permanently do an additional 5% more critical damage. There's a military crate nearby with randomized goods inside, and across the hall is a secure access door with a nearby terminal. It's thankfully just a novice lock, so we can easily hack this. Once done, we can disable the lock and open the door. Inside, we find a loot room. We've got harvested organs that we can take to the wolf system to sell. A couple of mannequin displays with armor inside, one of which had a legendary piece of armor. But that's it for that room. Heading downstairs, we move into a large room with weapon racks on the walls and mannequins lying out. Here, we find the safe.
I imagine Galbank must be very aware and very unhappy that this safe has gone missing.
With the stolen safe key in hand, we can open each of these safe doors. And inside, we find a tidy stash of credits and ammunition. Each one will contain a randomized weapon. Not a lot of good loot, but over 4,000 credits in each safe. I didn't find an option while exploring the ship to return the money to Galbank. So we'll just hold on to it for Galbank until I do. After giving this section a thorough inspection, we find that Lopez and the others have come upstairs. They're waiting for us in the observation corridor.
This is the first deep breath I've taken in months. I make no illusions. You did this, and now it's up to us to keep it going.
No, Albin, it was a team effort.
Very diplomatic. It's horseshit, of course, but it sounded nice. The rest of the families and I, well, we chipped in for a reward. I know it's probably a pittance compared to what someone like you makes, but we're just dirt poor farmers and miners just trying to get by. I think I need to shut up now. Don't want to get...
Oh, well, Albin, how's the future of the Defense Pact look?
Who the hell knows? We're coming off a victory, so that might buy us a honeymoon period. But maybe it'll last.
Well, Albin, I appreciate the thought, but you and the settlers need the credits more than me.
Damn you. I'm not... Yeah, deep breath. If you ever are in this system, you come back and visit. We'll give you a warm welcome for the ages.
With that, we complete the quest. Failure to communicate. And we can leave the space station.
The others may not see it this way, but you saved us all.
I can't believe we actually did it.
Now, there was one secure access door on the bottom level that I couldn't open. Getting near to it, I did hear a computer activate on the other side of the door. However, we don't find any ventilation, chambers, or shafts that bring us back there. No doors we can cut open, no computers on the outside that we can hack to open it. So I wasn't able to open this last door. I'm not sure if there's anything back there anyway. Now, I wanted to take Albin up on his offer. He said if we were ever in the area, we should stop by and say hello. So I came back to the RNI system several days later, only to discover that Albin's farm was no longer a marked location on RNI 2. However, the place where I landed my ship was, and I landed it not far from Albin's farm. So I went down to the landing location and explored around trying to find Albin's farm, but I couldn't find it. There were plenty of ruined structures and other marked locations, but Albin's farm was gone. I then went to all of the other planets and moons in this system to try and find evidence of any of the other families. But I didn't find any other farms on any other rocky body. Additionally, the derelict space station disappeared from the orbit of RNI 3. It took several days for this to happen. I came back after fast traveling away and spending a couple hours elsewhere, and the space station was there. But after several days, I came back and the space station was no longer a marked location in orbit around RNI-3. Now, I didn't bother to manually try and search for it in space around RNI-3, as I think that probably would have been a huge waste of time. But from what I can gather, after we complete this quest, and after a while, everything related to it just vanishes. So it's worth bearing in mind that if you want to loot everything on the derelict Starstation, you really have one opportunity. We walk away from this feeling good, having helped out these list settlers, but also feeling a bit frustrated. On one hand, every fiber of my being wants to support any system, any settlers, any colonists that want to work outside of the UC and the Freestar Collective, who want to head out there and forge unique paths for themselves, explore systems that have otherwise been explored, settle on worlds that have never been settled, and manage their own affairs. I admire that level of independence. However, in this universe, in this reality, where spacers are literally everywhere, where the Crimson Fleet is organized and ruthless, where ecliptic mercenaries could show up at your doorstep if anyone who holds a grudge against you chooses to hire them, I think it's much more practical to work with the forms of government that exist already in this system. It's safer for everyone involved. How many little colonies have been destroyed by spacers because they wanted to go out and do their own thing? How many farms started to produce a great deal of wealth only to have it stripped from them and everyone on their farm murdered? Murdered because the United Colonies wasn't there to protect them. Murdered because they were outside the jurisdiction of the Freestar Rangers. I think a defense pact like the one we helped these guys establish is essential for members of LIST to continue to survive in the settled systems. I just hope that it's enough, because without a mercenary like us, who flew in to save the day, I don't know if this defense pact could have defeated all of these spacers. But then again, had the defense pact been in place before the spacers arrived, they could have eradicated this cancer before it became so malignant. Thanks for watching, everybody. I publish new Starfield episodes each and every week, so if you don't want to miss my next one, be sure to subscribe and to click that bell notification button. If you have already, but you still feel like you're missing out on YouTube notifications, consider following me on Twitter @Oxhorn. I update Twitter manually with every new piece of content that I publish. If you like what I do and you want to support me in another way, consider becoming a patron on Patreon or a member here on YouTube. YouTube members get little badges that appear next to their names in the comment sections of my videos and access to Ox emojis that they can use in my video comments and in the live chats of my live streams. But more than anything, I'm just so glad you're here watching this video with me today. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you soon with more Starfield videos and more Starfield live streams.